Anyway, once again, good evening. Happy to see all of you, the more the merrier, on camera, so that we can all say hello to each other and at least in some approximation simulate what it's like to be together in person. Hello, everyone. Feel free to say hello, unmute, where you're calling in from. Give us a sense of our wider community.
Katie from San Francisco.
Hi, Katie.
San Francisco.
Yay, San Francisco.
Mark from San Francisco.
Hey, Mark.
Jason, Connecticut. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jason.
Howie G from San Francisco.
Welcome, Howie G.
I'm Amy from San Francisco.
Can you turn it down?
See you, Amy.
Lisa, San Francisco.
Hi, Lisa, wherever you are. Oh, there you are. Hello, Maureen.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Howie. Good to be here.
Thought I saw Jill as well, but maybe not.
There she is.
For some reason, I don't see her.
There she is.
Oh, there you are, Jill. Now I got you. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
Okay, gang. It's up to us now. The sky is falling. The world is under enormous stress.
Hello.
Is that Kitty? Hey, Kitty.
Hi,
Good to see you.
you too.
Anyway, as I was saying, the world is under a lot of stress. We have a consequential election on the horizon, and very easy to have our sense of well-being a little bit tethered to how things turn out, but the Dharma keeps reminding us that the only true happiness is the happiness that is independent of circumstances, that is free. And that the only way that we can truly find that kind of freedom is through recognizing that in us which is free already, unassailable, unconditioned, unborn, and to awaken to that fact and not stray away from it. And in the meantime, use the number one or number two conduit to that unshakable peace and freedom, which is the momentary freedom and well-being that comes from any moment that we are aware. And because any moment that we are aware is a moment where we are momentarily free of wanting things to be otherwise, resistance, the delusion of our imagined self, and we taste in any moment of non-contentiousness, of being aware, we taste a little fragrance of freedom. And of course, if you nurture that moment of freedom, all kinds of beautiful heart qualities flow from that: love, compassion, joy, equanimity, skillfulness. And if this takes on a certain kind of strength or power, it has the power to awaken us in a way that we don't forget. So that's why we practice, both to awaken moment to moment and to awaken in a way where we stop falling into delusion and confusion and dependency. And at the center of that practice, as I said, is mindful attention. And I find it useful to remind each of us that that source of peace, that source of freedom, that we call mindful attention or awareness, it's completely natural to us. It's not something that has to be created. We simply need to remember. In fact, common translation of the word for mindfulness, sati, is remembering. So we always start our sitting with the remembering of that, what Suzuki Roshi calls the ultimate fact that you are aware here. So letting our eyes close softly, aware of that simple fact of being aware. Letting the sound of the gong call you here. Break whatever stream of distress. Reintroduce ourselves to that ever-present wakefulness and clarity that lives in you as you are aware. Notice how effortlessly, as you are aware, how effortlessly the body experience is known in awareness. And with our eyes closed, secluded in the darkness and the silence, we feel those points of sensation that flicker in a way like stars in the sky, the sensations that we call our body. And as our attention stays very close to, cozies up to these sensations, in other words, putting our mind and body together, begin to feel a stilling, a quieting, letting go of ideas of past and future, and entering into direct experience of just this unfolding now. And following the Buddha's recommendation that we not let our mind or our attention leave our body. Reminder that there's one thing, he said, that leads to calm and focus, pleasant dwelling in this life, to the abandonment of the causes of stress. What's that one thing? It is mindfulness directed to the body. So as our body stills and it fills our awareness, we naturally become aware of the little movements that it makes when it breathes. And just following and feeling the sensations created by our body's breath. We continue to empty our mind of its usual preoccupations and enter into that direct experience of breathing, of sitting, of the simple reality of the present moment. Just this breath, just this moment. We let our body and breath be our anchor, our home base, place to come back to, place to refine. But we also graciously receive other experiences that may become stronger than the breath and body, sounds, other specific sensations, moods and thoughts, images, emotions, anything that comes into our field of awareness, we welcome it. We let it brighten and steady our awareness. And we learn from it. We notice how it changes. We notice how it happens by itself. And we notice what happens if we cling to it. And it teaches us to let go. So we welcome everything. And when the predominant experience fades or becomes less compelling, we just come back to our anchor. Either our body and breath, or just the simple fact that you are aware. Just this moment. Just this source of freedom. Being aware. Supported by our body and breath. And all sense objects. Just a reminder when you realize you've been lost in thought, drifting, fantasizing, remembering, imagining, that moment that you realize that your mind's been absorbed as a moment of mindfulness, coming back online. So appreciate that moment of mindfulness re-arising, that moment of being able to reorient yourself to this unfolding present, this simple reality. Naturally, we find our body and our breath. We're waiting very patiently for our return. And once we put our mind back in our body and our body back in our mind, we're now offering the love that we need, the attention that we need right now, just this moment. Just this breath. Remember that you're aware here. Mingle that experience of being aware with the immediacy of your sitting body and breath. Gathering and sustaining your connection to this single point of now and here, embodied. Knowing our practice is fulfilled in this moment. This is our direction, this is our agenda, is here. And here, every moment is a new beginning. As our destination is not in time, it's not in space, it's right here. Just this moment, just this sitting body, just this breath, or whatever lights up in our awareness. Thank you for your practice this evening. Really felt you with me. We were holding each other up. And all in the room together, in the Zoom room, but we're in a room and can feel our collective intention to stay where we are, present, to cultivate the causes of well-being and goodwill, abandon the causes of ill will and confusion. So we're clearly had that feeling we were walking or traveling the path together, which is a path that goes nowhere, that unfolds. This unfolding present, because that's all there is. There is no past, there is no future. There's just memories and plans and sense experience. And that practice sitting together reminds me when I forget that life is not so much the story of the world and the dramas that play out in the world, but life is also just this moment. In fact, anything really other than what's happening right here in this moment is imaginary. It's a beautiful thing, as I often say, that we can imagine the world, that we can reflect on past present moments, we can plan future present moments, that we can hold a vision or memories or creative flourishes, we can hold them in our consciousness. But they all happen here. They all happen here. There's no other place than here. How's it feel to have your whole life coalesce right here? That this is the whole shebang here tonight. The real life, that is. I lead a lot of retreats, most of you know, and we often say, I'm going back to the real world. I said, every moment that you're here, that's the real world. Going back to the real world is going back to an idea of your world in your mind. And so at least our practice allows us to see the difference between the worlds that we create in our mind, or as James J. Audubon calls the field guidebook. It says if there's a difference between the bird and what the field guidebook says, believe the bird. You right here, that's what you want to believe. That's what you want to believe. And if we can at least exploit this a little bit, this world, this immediacy, we'll see that this world is not so terrible. Many people, many of the 7 billion people that live on this earth are experiencing moments, which is all life is. They're experiencing moments. Some are really difficult, have all these systemic causes, but some are really sweet and simple and beautiful. And I think we have to remember that it's not just that monolithic story of the world in this consequential election and all the things that we care so deeply about and want to and will fight for. And we'll keep fighting for it. But we have to, in order to have any semblance of sanity, any semblance of a regulated nervous system, we have to know that this is the world too, just us, just tonight. Just the sweetness of being able to be together, be able to have our attention in the same place as our body, have our heart feel the sense of connection, even in a Zoom room, with teachings, with each other, with our basic goodness. Easy to forget, so easy to forget. I was speaking to someone today. I wasn't planning to. We'll do check in a little bit later, but I was speaking with someone today who is otherwise a really wise person. I'm not going to name names, but a really wise person who says, I am going to be tense until this election. On one hand, it was like a hypnotic induction, saying, this is how I'm going to feel. You know, whatever you frequently dwell upon, whatever you think about a lot, this becomes the inclination of your mind. If you think, I'm going to feel this way, you will. We're very creative. But this otherwise wise person, at least in the trance of today's collective angst about the world and about the election, etc., that person has forgotten that it's possible to stay in touch with a well-being that doesn't depend on how things turn out. That it's possible not to be, for the next 50 days, in a state of suspended happiness. What the Buddha called lokiya sukha, the happiness that depends on satisfying some kind of desire or hunger. That kind of happiness, if we associate our happiness with how things turn out, that's misery. That's dukkha. And of course we want things to turn out way, and we're gonna work hard. We're gonna make those phone calls. We're gonna tell everybody. I tried to tell both my wife and I tried to encourage my daughter. We sent her the little thing about how to register to vote, and she's at an age where it still feels a little bit like micromanaging, so got a little pushback. But nevertheless, we've got to do that thing. But I can't depend on her voting and jumping through all the hoops. I can't depend on how the election turns out for my sense of well-being. I want to be, and I want all of you to be, I want to be that person on the boats in Vietnam, the boat people. I want to be that person who knows that there's still peace in the middle of it. That if a boat had one person who is in touch with peace, who could be steady, that boat had the highest likelihood of having its members survive. Lots of statistics about that. The ones who had somebody that stayed sane. So that's really, to me, that is the most important action that we can engage in right now, is to be the unsinkable in our own community, in our own environment, even if everyone else is freaking out right now about how razor thin and close. We have to have to find some more, as the Buddha recommended, and that's why I can talk like this, and because I'm not just shooting the breeze with my friends tonight. I'm in the Dharma seat. In the Dharma seat, it somehow wakes up and reminds me of what the Buddha's notion of what the happiness of a Buddha is. It's not being in a good mood. It's knowing peace. It's knowing peace as the nature of my heart and mind, and having that knowledge that there is a well-being that is unconditional, and that if we live our life with understanding of things as they are, then naturally we will let go of the false objects of our happiness, what the Buddha called, we will let go of our misplaced faith that we put in things that don't really give us any reliable refuge and well-being. We'll aim for what he called the well-being that is unstuck from the power and influence of circumstances, called lokutra sukha, the well-being or the happiness of the unborn, the unconditioned, the deathless that lives in us as us. And even if we only have little mini glimpses of that kind of well-being, we just keep practicing letting go. We keep learning that there is nothing in this world of changing conditions, in unreliable conditions. There's nothing that can be clung to effectively as a source of happiness. Because everything is unstable in our world of birth and death and change, and that's why we practice every day to see for ourselves, to experience, to keep saying everything is in flux. Conditions are not always happening according to my will or my wish. My well-being cannot be dependent on conditions being the way I want them to be. I'll keep trying because I care. I'll keep holding all the suffering of the world in my heart and let it inform where my actions are. And I'll keep following my heartbreak. But I'll also balance that with the equanimity that knows that I may care about the world. I may care about how things turn out, but I can't necessarily make it happen. I'll keep trying, but I will maintain some kind of balance. This is just the wisdom side there. The love side says, I'm going to do everything. The wisdom side says, there's a limit to what we can control. And so we have to be able to flow with things as they are. And to me, the only way that I can find that ability to flow with things as they are is to be very rooted in the reality of the present moment. That reality that there really is, as the Buddha spoke of in his famous sutta called the All, there really is only the seen and what's seen, and the heard what's heard, the smelled what's smelled, tasted what is tasted, felt what's felt, cognized what is cognized, and that's all. Life is really simple in real time. Our situations are very complicated, but our moment-to-moment life experience is simple. So we just have to stay in touch with that. And remember, as Anantupton says, you are consciousness. It's another way of talking about that in us, which is deathless, immovable, but awake. You are consciousness, and so am I. Consciousness is said to be groundless because it has no size, no color, no shape, or location. Some people think that consciousness is living in us. However, such a view is limited in scope since this consciousness is all-pervading. We live in it. We are it. It enjoys eternal play. Now and then consciousness forgets that its play is its own manifestation and gets lost in believing that it is separate from itself. That forgetfulness is the fundamental delusion that gives birth to all troubles, problems, struggles in unending chain reactions. Since consciousness itself is not separate from enlightenment, consciousness being aware of itself can happen suddenly and break the chain created by our forgetfulness. So my contention is that every moment that we wake up to the simple reality of the present moment, we break the chain of delusion. Another Tibetan teacher named Dujum Rinpoche just put it very simply, says, notice right now when you're awake, after your last thought has ceased and before the next one comes, is there not a vivid clarity? After the last thought has ceased and before the next one, is there not a vivid clarity? Without anything in particular to see, just the clarity of being aware. He says, ho, or how amazing. This is awareness. It's a given. He says, but isn't it true that a thought suddenly arises? He says, if that thought suddenly arises and it's noticed as a thought, this just reveals itself as an expression of consciousness, an expression of this vivid clarity, an expression of awareness. Thoughts, no problem. But if that thought goes unnoticed, it spreads out into ordinary thinking. And this he calls the chain of delusion, because when we're kind of living in that ordinary thinking, living in that, incarnated in that thought stream, then we manufacture the vision or the view of the world. We lose the world as it actually is, which is thoughts, sounds, smells, taste, touch. And we wander a long time confused in that chain of delusion. That chain of delusion is where we make up the drama of us in the world. We're not in the world, we're here. I'm always a little close to the most recent retreat that I had the good fortune to lead, and always at the end of the retreat, that little chain of delusion shows up at the end of a retreat as the thought, the seed thought is, I'm going home, which is conventionally true. I'm going home. I'm taking my little practice home to my big world with all its problems and struggles and elections, and as soon as a person is living in that little thought train, that little world of little me going into my big life, body gets super anxious, tension, there's a lot of nervousness, some excitement. But the funny thing is, and this is something I learned at the end of retreats, that all that took place and I was a nervous wreck, but nothing really happened except I went through this little imaginary world of little me going home. And then I realized that I don't go home at all. It's just a way of thinking. I actually stay always right where I am. My life is just unfolding present moments. I don't go home. Even when I'm driving fast along the freeway, I'm still right where I am. Even when I get home and see my wife, see my dog, I'm just another unfolding present moment. And so I've encouraged many through the years to kind of just look at what actually happens. There's just unfolding present moments. I can't take care of the next one. I can't take care of the last one. I can handle this one. And so I've encouraged a lot of people to say, well, forget this idea of integrating my practice into my life and then getting anxious. Just integrate my life into my practice. Rather than my practice into my big life, my life that shows up into my practice. Where's my practice? Right here. This is where I have to deal with things, right here. And I can only deal with the issue at hand, which is tonight it's with being with you. But where is my life now? Where's my practice now? It's here with you. Anyway, I don't know if it can sound like a little cute device instead of integrating your practice into your life, integrating your life into your practice, but energetically, it's very simplifying. It's very easing of the stress of having to integrate, just thinking of myself as so vulnerable in the face of this big thing I have to deal with. When I'm actually here, I don't feel as vulnerable. I feel more strong and able to deal with the one moment at a time that presents itself. If we could live our life that way and just integrate our life that shows up into our practice, which is just having our attention in the same place as our body, and our heart available, our attention kind and interested, relaxed. But I think when we take life in this unfolding simplicity in a way, I think we make better decisions and feel a little more balanced. Handle the election stuff with a lot more groundedness. Have much more sense of a well-being that isn't thrown off so much by all the uncertainty. Just to reinforce this, an often read sutra from the middle-length suttas of the Buddha, where the Buddha said, "Let not a person revive the past or on the future build their hopes. For the past has been left behind. The future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let each presently arisen state. Let him see each presently arisen state. Let them know that and be sure of it invincibly, unshakably. Today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come. Who knows? No bargain with mortality can keep them and their hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, relentless by day, by night, it is they, the peaceful sage has said, who has one fortunate attachment. Attached to being conscious, attached to what is being known in consciousness, in awareness in this moment, How difficult is that? As my friend Sylvia, who I just co-led the founders retreat at Spirit Rock, she wrote a book called It's Easier Than You Think. And it is, peace is possible even in this crazy time. And she models that. Of course, she couldn't come in person to the retreat, family issues, but she showed up as offering a beautiful virtual talk, a big TV set in the meditation hall. We just deal with life as it's presenting itself. We only have to deal with a moment at a time. So it's always fun to say, aim for the highest happiness, the one no other desire can fulfill, even the desire for our candidate, or for women to have complete freedom with their bodies, to make their own decisions. Of course you want it. You want freedom to do everything. And we also can't forget the freedom that, and the reason I'm saying this right now, I'm informed by the great song from Bob Marley. He says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. And it was inspired by Marcus Garvey, person who founded the whole African liberation movement in the States. Says they can incarcerate you, they can take away your freedom, but they can take away your physical freedom, but they can't bind your mind. Only you can bind or free your mind. And so even though we want all kinds of freedom and are willing to work for it, it's important that we aim for the highest freedom, which is the liberated heart. And it's said, at least in the Buddhist teaching, that if you aim for the highest happiness, all the other kinds of pleasure come in its wake. You still get the pleasure of of sense pleasures, enjoy this world. You still get the pleasure of non-harming. You still get the pleasure of a concentrated heart. But you don't depend on any of it. You don't depend on the conditions of the world. You find that well-being that is lokuttara sukha, unconditional happiness. And just to get, just to be clear again, unconditional happiness is not a mood. It's peace, and what flows from peace is love, compassion, joy, equanimity, caring. Because then our eyes are open. We see each other. So may we all awaken to love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. May we all be liberated. May we all know the highest happiness. May we all live with ease and not wait for happiness. Thanks for listening. Check in. Any comments, questions about your practice or anything that was said? Just a few minutes for that. And then our dear Catherine, who is our co-host tonight, might have a few announcements. But anybody have any comments or questions? I'll take that as a sign that I stole your mind. You're here, you're now just here. Beautiful. Okay, Catherine, it's up to you.
Okay, great. I put some announcements in the chat and I'll just go over them briefly. The first event is Saturday, September 21st, next Saturday, 10 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. And it is called How Can Love and Compassion Bridge What Divides Us? And it's sounds like a very cool event. If this question is on your mind and heart this election season, please register for this event. There's a link. And it's a free 90-minute virtual event featuring inspiring Buddhist mindfulness and civic leaders sharing teachings on how we can move our divided country forward with love and compassion towards the true democracy we all know is possible for this election and beyond. It's a free event. It's a virtual event. There is more information in the Mission Dharma newsletter. There'll be an opportunity to support 2 different organizations. One of them is DJs at the Polls, which sounded really cool to me. So check that out. The information will be in the link there in the chat. And Howie's teaching 4 retreats in Canada. And I didn't put them all in here, but it looked like and Howie is the Victoria Insight Meditation Society retreat open to non-Victoria Insight folks.
Yes, about a week before that retreat in Victoria, they are sending me a link to make it a hybrid retreat. So it will be an in-person retreat with, 80 or 90 people, but there will be a space for people to be part of it. In fact, the last time that I met with them, I did a special group meeting with the people who were virtual, and so it'll work. But so please come all to the Victoria retreat. The week after that, I'm in Regina, Saskatchewan. There are a few Reginans here tonight, and that will be entirely in person. And then the next Canadian one, I think, is Vancouver in November.
Yeah, and all those are in the newsletter as well, or on the website.
That's right. And then I don't know if you were going to get to the events that the emerging organization called IDC, Insight Dharma Center, San Francisco Insight Dharma Center. All the local teachers are coming together to help with a bunch of other people, help create a city center for all the groups to be able to occupy. In the meantime, it's a virtual community, and we are actually offering some events on September 21. You can volunteer at St. Anthony's and help serve food. Let's see if I can help with this.
Oh, I can put that in the chat.
Okay, great. And then I'm one of the teachers who's leading I think it's a 6-week online series on the 4 ennobling truths, the 4 noble truths. And I'm doing I think I'm doing the 17th, but it begins with a general survey on October 10th. And then every 2 weeks, there will be another section led by one of the Insight Dharma Center teachers. And that will be, you can register on through our bulletin or whatever Catherine puts in the chat.
Yeah, it's the last link in that block of text. Sorry, it's a little bit punched together. And then there's also a survey that the SF Insight Dharma Center is offering that will help you weigh in on what kinds of events and activities you'd like to have the Insight Dharma Center offer.
Thank you. Anyway, I think that's probably enough of a flood. You all know that our group meets as part of the 2600-year system of mutual generosity. Teachers show up, offer their support in the form of teaching, and the invitation is for you to fill our alms bowl with material resources so that we can keep the wheel and the river of dana, of generosity going just as it has since the time of the Buddha. So thanks in advance for your generosity. And I know Catherine put ways that you can offer dana in the chat as well. And hope to see you next Tuesday or one of the retreats. This week, I think I'm up in Prescott, Arizona for any of you Arizonans. 4-day residential retreat in one of the great Dharma Disneylands of the world called Garchin Institute. And I don't know whether there's space in the retreat, but you might check Prescott Insight Meditation Society or group, Prescott, Arizona. So anyway, nice being with all of you. Please feel free to unmute and say goodnight to each other. Great to see you all.
Good night. Thank you so much, Howard.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Howie. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Howie. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Have a good week.
Thank you, Howie.
Well,
Sure. Thank you.
Everybody.
Good night,
Good night, everyone. Thanks for your company.
Thank you.
Thank
Mark.
you.
Good night, all.
Thank you,
Good night,
Catherine, for
everyone.
co-hosting.
Night.
Good night. Thank you, Howie.
Pleasure. Great to see you, Mary.
Thank you for the reminders. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right. Good night.